Alright everyone, BitChute, apparently its founder has a YouTube channel and it was part of a multi-channel network, and then all of a sudden they terminated him despite the fact that he wasn't active for a while. And I thought, well, this is a little odd, and I actually Googled it, and apparently there's just a general mass purge of people from multi-channel networks, and I don't know 100% about them because I've never been part of one and never would be. But apparently a lot of people are being let go. Apparently what happened is that YouTube contacted these groups because people who they don't take AdSense, they'll work, I guess, with other networks to gain revenue in some way. And YouTube's like, well, that's a problem because, we've got stringent policies now on AdSense. A lot of people, I guess, began using MCNs. And so YouTube, in order to allow them to operate on YouTube as a network, is forcing them to obey basically the same rules that AdSense does. So if you're edgy, you're basically screwed insofar as taking anything related to advertisements and deals. By the way, I'll say this. It's not great. In fact, it's a symbol of a larger problem, which is the stagnation of the big tech firms. They're moving away from being interesting specifically because they had edgy and strange and weird and out there content. The reason why YouTube became the hegemon is because of bum fights and Tourette's guy and people, doing crazy shit. Literally, in many cases, things that were illegal, and also politically out there material, war footage, stuff like that, protest videos. That's what made YouTube YouTube. Before that, I can remember. Early on, before a lot of that was there. We're talking, when I didn't even have home net access, and was very early on, using around 2006. Mostly what YouTube was at that time was very, very mundane content, just random video clips people posted, like 3 seconds of a fucking zoo animal, literally. Or music videos, really. There were a lot of music videos, which then was a problem during the DMCA dark ages. But that's what YouTube was. It took off because of the edgy, the strange content. That's what drove it up to the point where YouTube, as a subjugate of Google, is one of the top 10 websites in the entire world. One of the top, Google's number one, YouTube's also on the top 10 despite the fact that it's a subjugate to Google. Google's offspring is in the top 10. And still doing well. And as Facebook declines, it's going to move up a notch. As Twitter probably declines, I think YouTube will probably end up being the number 2 website on the net. If Amazon doesn't end up being eventually number 1, I'd be surprised, by the way, because they're trying to stay above the fray. They're like, no, we don't want to talk about all this stuff. We just want to, ship you a pizza using a drone because it's cool, basically. That's pretty funny too. But it's a larger problem. It's the stagnation of big tech. It's also the principle of it. It's not like this is actually going to do more than inconvenience the average person. Look, if I never joined a multi-channel network because I'm like, that seems weird. I'm giving away a little bit of my creative independence now, aren't I? I'm potentially having a second overlapping layer of shit that I have to deal with. Then there was that incident. I can't remember what group it was. There was a hacker collective that actually went after and managed to get the passwords of everyone in one of these networks. And for a while, they had changed all their descriptions and tags and stuff to weird shit, advertising the fact that they had cracked their, I guess, general password or something. And it's like, yeah, I'm not going to give any third party access to my passwords. I don't even keep them on my computer. Like any password that it's so encrypted that I can't memorize it. It has to be on a USB drive. It's not even going to be connected to my computer, let alone sitting in a server somewhere in some network that might get hacked specifically because it would give you access to dozens of large accounts. It doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, revenue-wise, I don't even like the ad thing, so I don't want partnerships, so who cares? But as for the MCNs themselves, my advice to people, again, crowdfund, do the merchandise thing. Apparently there's something called Streamlabs or something. You can run it alongside and you can actually gain super chats capabilities, but it's not actually part of YouTube, strictly speaking, itself. You just sort of run it through the feed or something. If you do that, yeah, that would make sense and sort of undercut the ability of censorship. Any way that we can resist censorship is good. That's been my opinion for the entire time I've been online. I can remember early on. We're talking the mid-2000s. My first arrival really was on Facebook when I was vocally anti-war. There were a lot of times where people's stuff would get removed because, it would depict, again, a picture of combat or something that's meant to evoke an emotional response. It's like, hey, war has a face. Here it is. It's been ripped in half by a bullet or something along those lines. It would get taken down. Oh, it's too gory. It's not allowed. And it's like, well, come on. Look at the message of it. It's not like I'm glorifying violence. I'm doing exactly the opposite. Facebook very early had a problem with that. Now has 10 million more problems, which is why it's sinking as a website. I keep hoping YouTube will be the one outlier that resists the death of big tech at the end of the paradigm shift. Because I've put so much effort into YouTube and so much time, I like the site. The problem is that they keep doing things like this, becoming more draconian. It's not even principle, though. Ultimately, it's economic. YouTube rose up because of the weird content. If it's maintained, it'll be because of out there, weird, edgy content. You have to have, by default, the site has to have a very libertarian-style structure to survive because of the method by which it grew in the first place. It's getting rid of that. It's no longer a platform that's geared towards free expression. It's a platform that's geared towards very intervened-in speech because politicians leaned on YouTube and Google as its parent firm. Because NGOs weaseled their way in there to influence what people could and couldn't say on the platform. Because of this, nonsense, really, which is what it is, limited state, where it's like, well, it doesn't break our rules, but we're going to suppress it anyway because we just don't like it. That's a problem. So while this itself isn't like death knell of YouTube mode, it's like it only affects people who are part of these networks. I don't even know how fundamentally they determine whether you can or can't join them. I think you have to have a certain amount of clout in order to even get on them. Like I get like all these messages from time to time. They always go to the filtered folder. I just think, no, join our network, we're the largest. Join our network, you make, 90% of the income is yours, stuff like that. And it's like, usually I'm not going to click on the link. I'm going to assume that you're trying to scam me. Or you're trying to phish my personal information. Or you're going to send me to some site where like NoScript is going to block everything because it's just one giant virus injector or something. You're not going to get me to click on your fucking links. I don't know how effective a strategy it is to spam people anyway. Usually my response, if I respond at all, is going to be screw you, essentially. So I'm not going to join these networks. Again, I feel happy about the decisions generally that I've made, like not taking AdSense. I think it was a good decision long term. Not joining an MCN, I think it was a good decision. Not being fully reliant on any single site, switching to a multi-platform presence is a good idea. There are still people that they have like one or two sites that they primarily use. It's like, you're making the biggest fucking mistake you could possibly make, dude. You should have a presence. Even on sites you don't necessarily like or agree with, you should have some presence. Like, I've still got a Facebook account. I'm not updating the page. I'm not doing anything there, but it's going to remain there. It's dormant. It's empty, basically. But at the very least, people who find me on Facebook then get links to other presences. Like, hey, here's my YouTube, my Twitter. I'm on Minds, BitChute, Steemit, Gab, all of these others. You can go here. I have a Patreon. I have a Maker support. I write books. Here's the blog links. At the very least, you can put that on your page, just have a single pinned post or something for the 10 people that'll actually search for you this week. It makes sense. Multi-platform presence is a good idea. As far as these MCNs, well, if Google really forces them to use the same terms as AdSense, the same sort of situations, most people won't use multi-channel networks anymore. This could actually be what causes them to reverse course. Because these MCNs might complain once they realize 90% of their users are no longer generating any revenue for them. They're like, hey, we hired 20 new staff a year ago because we were growing. Now all of a sudden we have to lay them all back off and then some. We had to fire our night janitor. Trash is building up. Help us, Google. You've ruined our company. That 10% or 20% or whatever, we're getting on the backs of these creators that wanted to use ads or product placement or some shit through our MCN. That was our source of income. We were making 6 figures and it was all hunky-dory. Now we're making $2 a month and we've got all this shit that we have to pay for. We're going to go bankrupt. A lot of these networks will just dry up in the wind and blow away. It's going to be funny to see if any of them visibly complain. That's about all. Peace out.